channel. Today we are reading An Imprisoned Dabi, ex-pregnant reader. Let's all take a moment to just look at the beginning of this. I drew this last night. So, yeah. Anyways. I hope you all enjoy this video. Sadly, this is a female ex-Dabi, but if you're male and still want to stick around, you can just pretend that you're Omega, something like that. I don't really care. It's up to you guys. So the title is Bars Can't Hold Us, and this is by Killer Cameron on Wattpad. So I hope you all enjoy. You took a deep breath as you walked up to the counter. The woman working behind it smiled at you and turned to the computer. Who are you here for? Dabi, you said meekly. The villain. The woman immediately frowned and hesitated. Sir, can I have your name? She quickly typed his name into the computer and read the information. Ryan Ellen, you said, and showed her your ID. You can wait in the waiting room. He has to be visited behind glass, she explained. You nodded. Thank you. You took your stuff and faced the ground. You walked to the waiting room in silence. Dabi was allowed to visit from only 3 people. You took a deep breath. The police wanted nothing to do with him since he won't cooperate with their questions, and All Might saw nothing but rage inside Dabi. They wouldn't visit him, but here you were. You hadn't noticed that time had passed to a good 20 minutes. You heard the sound of footsteps nearing the waiting room, and you perked up. A prison guard walked into your view. Ryan Ellen? He asked. You gathered your belongings and nodded. Yes, that's me. The guard nodded and gestured for you to follow as he spoke. If you could please follow me. You nervously followed the guard. What was Dabi going to say to you? What would he even act like to this sudden appearance? You took a deep breath to calm your nerves, though your heart skipped a beat when the guard opened the visiting room. Dabi was behind thick glass and his hands in a metal box. It looked kind of like what they would put Bakugo's hands in. Dabi looked up from his lap and met your eyes. His frown turned into a smirk as you walked in and sat down. The guard left and Dabi leaned back in his chair. You look amazing, Dabi spoke. Your cut healed well. You reached up to your cheek, feeling the scar that was caused on the night of Dabi's capture. Dabi tilted his head a bit as you did. Why? You asked quietly. Dabi looked confused for a minute before chuckling. Oh, that man, right? You nodded, not meeting his eyes. If you didn't attack him, you wouldn't be here. But why did you? I just want to know. Dabi looked up at the camera watching him. He seemed to think a little bit. Then he returned his gaze to you. He had his eyes on my little flame, he said. He watches as your emotionless expression changed to a confused one. I overheard his conversation about you that night. I don't want to tell you what he said. He would do to you, but I couldn't just let him try. I dealt with him. I made sure he wouldn't even try. You sighed and looked at your hands, playing with your fingers, but you knew you would get caught either way, so... I may be a villain, he said, and looked you in the eyes. But what kind of person would I be if I stand by and let my little flame get hurt? You looked him in his icy eyes. He was serious. You didn't even have to look at him to know that. Dabi, you said quietly. Dabi leaned forward to signal that he was listening. You bit your lip. How would you tell him? Ryan, he started. I may be in this box, but I still want you to know that I care. Now, I can tell that something is on your mind. I've known you for years. You slouched. How could you tell him when he was in there? What would he say? Would he be angry? Be sad? Dabi. Your voice broke a bit. Dabi looked at you, a shimmer of concern in his eyes. You were strong, never showed a single weakness. He knew something was wrong.
You took a deep breath and shakingly reached into your pocket. Dabi watched you closely, watching your body language. You grabbed a small bit of plastic before having a tear fall from your cheek. You were scared out of your mind. You looked up at Dabi again. Dabi, I'm pregnant. You took the bit of plastic from your pocket and showed him through the glass. Dabi's eyes widened. His mouth was open in shock. Wait. He seemed to take this in roughly. Is this some type of joke? You shook your head, a few tears trailing down your cheeks, from fear. Dabi tried to stand from the chair, but guns immediately trailed into his frame. Dabi watched the guns carefully and sat back down. He looked at you, then studied the test in your shaking hands. I'm going to be a dad? He asked in shock. You smiled, nodding. You felt relief at his happier expression. Dabi's eyes widened, even wider, and he smiled. Do you know when they're due? He asked suddenly. You shook your head and laughed a bit. I have an appointment next month, you said, and wiped your tears. But the baby's definitely yours. Dabi laid back in his chair, taking this all in. Then he frowned. He looked you over. You knew what he was thinking. I won't be able to see them. The realization seemed to hit like a train. Who will help you? You glanced at the cameras. You then looked around before turning back. You cupped your hands and mouthed your reply. League. Dabi relaxed. He trusted them, most of them. You smiled at him calmly, tired and more so calmer than before. Look, he started. I wanted to find a way to help, no matter what. I'm not going to abandon my child like my dad did. You knew exactly what he meant by that. You knew it would take time, but Dabi wouldn't stay in this prison for as long as they think. You took a deep breath. I miss you, you whimpered a little, lip quivering. I don't know how I can do this. Dabi studied your behavior before saying simple words. You can do this. You smiled a little. I'll visit when I can, I promise. Dabi smiled softly. And I'll be waiting, especially the update on our kid.